we are now on to the Los Angeles Clippers. Another tough team, especially this year, because there's a bunch of guys that have been bumped up into, bigger roles than they otherwise would have played. So like, Terance Mann, I think probably, although he had that huge playoff game against the Jazz that kind of might actually have him overrated. But I like him a lot. I went with Nick Batum. I'm pretty sure I mentioned him more than once on the East pod because I just like to compare guys that are low usage, smart, good passers, versatile defenders. I feel like all my underrated guys have kind of fit that mold. But I think a couple of factors kind of add to him being underrated. And one is that I still feel like he's thought of in tandem with the 2016 contract he signed. That was immediately like one of the worst, that was what you'd point to when it went bad for him in Charlotte as like one of the worst, 2016 deals in a summer of really terrible ones. But, again, not his fault. Like, you're going to say no to that? Like, what? It's, big deal.
I could see Charlotte Hornets fans being a little peeved, though, just like this is what he becomes after he, like,
right.
He was never a locker room problem there, to his credit, but like he's doing so much more for the Clippers over the past 2 seasons than he did over his final 2 in Charlotte.
Yeah. No, I agree. And part of that was injury. I think he had an elbow injury towards the end of that, but he disappointed. He didn't live up to the contract, and I don't hold that against him. 4-position defender. He's slowed down a little bit. I think, last year was really the revelation that because, he was kind of on the way out, it seemed like. But still, in 3 of the last 4 years, in terms of points per shot attempt, he's kind of up, above the 80th percentile. So he doesn't shoot a lot. He doesn't create a lot of his own offense, but he makes the shots that are created for him, and he moves the ball quick when he doesn't have it. So I just think, on a team like the Clippers that are going to be built around stars in theory, once everybody's healthy, and can just put these nasty, everybody's 6'7" to 6'9" lineups on the floor in a playoff game. Batum figures into that heavily. And the fact that he doesn't need anything drawn up for him to be effective, like, really matters when you're going to have 2 high usage stars. So I know I will concede that, the advanced metrics don't like him. The on-off stuff doesn't like him this year. But I'm just thinking of him in terms of what he means to this team at full strength, and just like, what he actually is capable of doing on the floor, I don't think is appreciated very much.
I think that's the right answer. I think you can make a case for Norman Powell, given what it cost to get him out of Portland. That was an abomination of a trade by the Blazers. I'll stand by that. Unless Keon Johnson turned into this next big thing, or they use their flexibility to actually do something inspiring this offseason, I would bet against the latter. I'd bet against both those scenarios coming out. I think I might have picked Amir Coffey, though. And I don't know if this is sort of an instance of circumstance where he's putting up, no, they're not gaudy numbers, but like he's having an opportunity he wouldn't otherwise have. They've given him more on-ball responsibility because of what their point guard rotation has become. He's been solid for them defensively. He's shooting 54% basically on 2s, nearly 37% on mostly above the break triples this season. There's a plug-and-play element to his offense, but he can get by defenders when he's using his left hand. So I think that he's someone who he's found money right now, but if you scale him to the longer term version of this roster, he fits with the motif that you just outlined of, let's just throw out these hellacious lineups that don't necessarily have a big, and they're going to defend their asses off and be able to do a bunch of different things on offense. I'm just not sure, given how much credit LA has received for, one, its defense, and then 2, I think we've looked at players like Reggie Jackson, the coaching job, of course, of Ty Lue even more. Amir Coffey has just been like absolutely rock solid for them. And that's after playing, I look at this as essentially his rookie season too, because he's played it was about 60 games in his first 2 years combined before this season. He's already played at this recording, 60 games this year. So I'm fascinated to see whether he's someone who sticks with them, because at like 6'7", handle the ball a little bit, shoot threes off the catch and above the break. Like, you don't even need him to stand in the corner. I know above the break, technically he could be in the way if that's where he's standing, but they don't need to be these short threes. He's shooting better on above the break threes than on corner triples this season. I'm intrigued by him. And so the Clippers they've been scrappy as anyone this year. And I think that they've found, just like they found Nick Batum last year, I feel like and Terance Mann as well. They're finding like Isaiah Hartenstein and Amir Coffey. Like, those are guys that I think can help them when they're at full strength.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes in a position like this where the big guns are out, and it's kind of becomes it's like somebody's got to get the numbers situation, but the Clippers aren't a bad team. So it's not like, it's not like we're struggling to find, like, man, look at this guy on the Pistons or the Rockets or the Magic or whatever that's getting numbers. And Coffey's different than that, because the Clippers are actually competitive, and it's not like he's just putting up volume. So it is kind of similar in that, like, he wouldn't have gotten this shot had the Clippers been as good as they wanted to be. But the fact that, somebody's got to get these numbers, it doesn't mean that his numbers are meaningless like they might be on a bad team. It's a little bit different.
If anything, it would be like if he was averaging 15 points, let's say he was averaging double the points, so he's at 8.8 for the year. If he was averaging 15 points per game and he was shooting like 43% on twos and 3%, like then it's, is this a matter of volume? But he's on a team that really hasn't been that great on offense this year, and they've been banged up. Like no Paul George, no Kawhi, and then even losing Norman Powell immediately after they get him. So I'm interested to see. And he's not young, but he's young. He's 24, and so this is someone that I think could help them or another team just moving forward.